The greatest show on earth is here! And Fan Central goes into extra time for 39 days right throughout FIFA's Showpiece tournament. With a Pepsi in hand, of course. Catch the playbook with a tactical breakdown from our expert coaches. Come sit in our fan corner where you have your say on the day's action. Fame or shame? Who were the best or worst players of the day? And have a laugh as we share some of the best reactions on social media. After the final whistle, it's extra time. Fan Central Extra Time. 8 p.m. daily with 10 p.m. shows on select days where there are 8 p.m. match kickoffs.
Fan Central Extra Time is brought to you by the Pepsi Football Nation, where fans make the rules. Football, better with Pepsi.
Hey, what I want?
Hi, I am Candy Pang.
What I want?
What a guan?
That I want for.
What a guan? What a guan?
What a one! Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
And that's a guan for what a guan!
Every dream conquered is another dream gained. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction, 'cause I'm wiser, one step closer. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard. And the music keeps on playing, and the people that I say we are mash up the night. Oh, what a feeling, don't stop dreaming. Keep on believing in the power of the feeling. Whatever you want, take a chance. Song in your heart, step in your dance. You got a spark, don't put it down. Shine your lights on.
Tonight, a Leave Story, more graduation controversy. For many Jamaican families, a primary school graduation is a proud and emotional moment, a celebration of 6 years of learning, growth, and achievement. But a recent controversy at Ascot Primary School in Portmore St. Catherine has sparked a national debate after some students were treated differently during their graduation ceremony based on their performance in the Primary Exit Profile or PEP examinations. The incident has drawn criticism from parents, educators, and the Ministry of Education, which has described the school's actions as inappropriate. The school's principal has since apologized, but the matter has raised broader questions about equity, student recognition, and the role of graduation ceremonies in Jamaica's primary education system. This evening, we examine the issues at the heart of the controversy and ask whether clearer guidelines are needed to govern how schools celebrate these important milestones. This is Lead Story. Welcome back. This is Lead Story. I'm Tyrone Reed. We're now being joined by the president of the Jamaica Teachers Association, some might say the powerful Jamaica Teachers Association, Mr. Mark Malava. Mr. Malava, top of the evening to you. Welcome to Lead Story. Mr. Malava? We're not here, Mr. Malava, top of the evening to you.
Good evening, sir.
All right. We have with us the president of the JTA, just to get your reaction to this issue that has been dominating the headlines. Mr. Malava, how do you see it as the president of the JTA?
Well, here's where I'm at. That decision at Ascot High School was clearly arrived at between the parents and the school administration. Notwithstanding that it was clearly not the best decision that was arrived at, given all that has unfolded, and bear in mind the unintended consequences that this may impact that this may have on students as a whole, particularly those students whom society may deem as not have done well during the PEP exam. The principal has clearly has given an unequivocal apology. It's for us. We are to learn from this experience. Notwithstanding that, though, I believe that our outrage as a society has been selective and borders on hypocrisy. And the reason why I'm saying this is that we have long practiced an apartheid education system long before this matter. For example, when schools are better funded than other schools, that is an apartheid education. That is apartheid education system. When infrastructure when infrastructure is poor in some schools as opposed to other schools, that is apartheid. And when schools are better funded than other schools, that is apartheid. We have long practiced an apartheid education system in this country, and what we should be outraged about is exactly that, the apartheid education system that we have been practicing. So I mean, from where I sit, our outrage is selective and hypocritical on this matter.
I want to push back on one of the points you just raised there, Mr. Malava. You mentioned that the school, along with parents, arrived at this decision. The school itself, the leadership of the Ascot Primary School, did in fact say that as well. But based on our reporting, and we've seen a missive that was sent to the Ministry of Education, where parents were raising concerns about this approach to the graduation ceremony. So many of the parents were not in agreement with it.
Yeah, and notwithstanding that, how those things tend to go, it tends to be a democratic process. I was not in the meeting. So I can't say how the meeting unfolded. Clearly, the parents were a part of the decision-making process. So let's get that out of the way. Notwithstanding that, though, as I indicated in terms of the process, notwithstanding the best intentions, clearly the decision that was made had unintended consequences from where I sit.
There are people who are listening tonight, Mr. Malava, and saying, how can it be unintended consequences when a school administration sat down and thought it was a good idea to have some students graduate in gowns and have others sit behind those students? It's a manifestation of what you're describing, that apartheid approach to education. Isn't this just furthering that malady?
Well, here's where I'm at with respect to that. A decision was made. I refuse to believe that an administrator or a school would make a decision that will ultimately lead to the harm, intentionally make a decision that will ultimately lead to harming any particular student, whether physically or psychologically. I refuse to believe that. So from where I sit, the decision was made to celebrate a group of individuals because of their success, without recognizing that the decision to celebrate them in the way that it was being done had unintended consequences, because there was a group, or there is a group of individuals who, but by virtue of how we operate in the society and by virtue of how society views PEP, would have been deemed as a failure. So it is really
just a manifestation of that.
Go again?
So you're saying this is a manifestation of that broader approach in the society?
Yeah, it is a manifestation of that broader approach in our society. And for me, I believe that the discourse, the narrative should really shift to how do we fix our education system? Because for decades we have been practicing an apartheid education system, whether it has to do with resources, infrastructure, how how we even view some schools as opposed to other schools. Yeah, because let's bear in mind that in many respects, success or failure within the education system is often defined by society, by people.
By the secondary school that you're placed in. But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Mr. Malava, because you're saying to the point of unintended consequences, you don't think any school administration would take an action that would be adverse to the students intentionally, is the point you're making.
Yeah,
but let me ask you this as the JTA boss. What good do you think could have come from this approach to a graduation?
Well, here's where I'm at. We must learn from this experience. You know,
we have to. I want you to respond to what I'm asking because I realize that perhaps the question didn't come through to you. What good could have come from taking that particular decision? Not in hindsight, you know. I'm saying looking at sitting down, deciding on how you're going to conduct your graduation, and then to take that decision that some students are going to wear gowns, others aren't going to, and of course other discriminatory elements to that graduation ceremony. What is the good that could come from that is what I'm asking.
I actually believe that I answered that earlier. You know, where I am at is this. Clearly the intention was to celebrate a group of individuals that were deemed to have been successful during the PEP exam. You know, so that was clearly the intention, without recognizing or necessarily recognizing that how one may be going about it may impact negatively another group of individuals that may not have that were not deemed to have been successful. Yeah?
Which is the difficulty I was having with the response, Mr. Malava. Because if the approach is you want to celebrate some, you have to think about how that would impact on the others who are in the graduation as well.
Which is where I went when I said, you know, these things can sometimes have unintended consequences. And unfortunately, in some instances, when decisions are made, all perspectives are not necessarily taken into consideration.
I'm almost out of time. I have two quick ones for you, Mr. Malava. I'm almost out of time. 30 seconds each for these responses. As a principal, would you have taken that decision?
The short answer to that is I hardly believe so, because there is a culture with respect to our institution and how we do our graduations. There is a minimum standard, and that is what should obtain.
The ministry, based on CVM's checks, go ahead, Mr. Malava. Go ahead.
No, man, but bear in mind that I am a principal of a high school versus a primary school, in which, you know, the termination for the termination period at the primary level is really quick.
All right. The ministry apparently told the principal, based on our checks, to abandon this course of action, and the principal didn't. That's according to our checks. Should the ministry have more autonomy over these situations to prevent things like this from happening?
Well, based on our education code of regulation, that is a matter for the board of management. If it is that the ministry had, and again, I don't know that to be true. If it is that the ministry did that, then for me, the ministry should have written to the board chairman, and the processes take place from there.
So the ministry, if they didn't do that, they would have failed in their undertaking then?
In terms of, I'm not sure I understand that.
In terms of preventing it from happening, if you speak with the principal and it doesn't, and it continues, the ministry should have gone to the board chairman, is what you're saying?
The ministry understands and knows what are the processes. If it is that the ministry has a challenge with something, and again, I cannot substantiate whether or not that was the case. You are indicating to me that that was what was reported. I am saying the ministry is very much aware of the processes that are involved in things of this nature.
Indeed. Mark Malava, the president of the Jamaica Teachers Association. Thank you for the time and the thoughts. So appreciate it. This is Lead Story. Take the break right here and come back with more.
Jamaica's unemployment rate has fallen to 3.3%, down from 13.2% in 2016. Our government's continued focus on job creation is delivering real results. We are building Jamaica. The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is...
Hi, I am Kendi Pang.
What a guan?
What's a guan?
That a guan pa.
What a guan?
What a guan?
Watagwan, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
That's a guan pa. What a guan?
Attention government pensioners. The Accountant General's Department Life Certificate Drive is coming your way. Look out for us on the following dates. Saturday, June 27, Spanish Town Library. Monday, June 29, Morant Villas in St. Thomas. Tuesday, June 30, Portland Parish Library. Wednesday, July 1, St. Mary Parish Library. Thursday, July 2, St. Anne Parish Library. Friday, July 3, Trelawney Parish Library. Saturday, July 4, St. James Parish Library. Monday, July 6, Hanover Parish Library. Tuesday, July 7, Westmoreland Parish Library. Wednesday, July 8, St. James Methodist Church in Clarendon. Thursday, July 9, Manchester Parish Library. Friday, July 10, St. Matthew's Anglican Church in St. Elizabeth. And on Saturday, July 11, at the Portmore Parish Library. Remember, drop boxes are also available at parish libraries in Hanover, St. James, Portland, Westmoreland, and Manchester. Follow our social media pages and the press for more details.
Welcome back. This is Lead Story. I'm Tyron Reid. Now, the country's highest lawmaking body is once again facing questions about conduct, decorum, and accountability. Recent incidents in Parliament have sparked debate about whether members are living up to the standards expected of them and whether existing rules are sufficient to maintain order and public confidence. At the center of the discussion are the standing orders, the rules that govern debate, procedure, and behavior inside the chamber. Supporters of reform argue that stronger sanctions may be needed to address disorderly conduct. Others maintain that existing rules are adequate, that the real issue, the real mischief afoot, is enforcement beyond the politics. However, many Jamaicans are asking a broader question this evening. What message is sent to the public when their elected representatives appear unable to conduct debate with respect and discipline? Does parliamentary behavior influence public trust in democracy? And what should modern parliamentary accountability look like? Join us now, our political analysts Jermaine Barrett and Dr. Nadine Spence. Top of the evening to both of you. Welcome to Lead Story.
Thanks, everyone. Good evening, Jermaine. Hi, how are you doing?
Indeed. We have before I take your comments, we have a clip with Marissa Dalrymple Philibert, former Speaker of the House, addressing what she feels is a deterioration in terms of the conduct of members of Parliament. Let's have a listen.
Thank you. I rise this evening as a former Speaker of this House, and I had discussions with my senior minister, who is also a former Speaker of this House. And I have heard all the comments and I have seen everything. And I really think we have reached a time in this Parliament where we must be absolutely honest with ourselves. And there are members on that side of the House that I have a lot of regard for. They oppose certain things and they do it in a manner that is how the parliaments of this country have always operated. And one of the overriding things that I know as a speaker, one of the overriding principles is that the Speaker's ruling must always be respected. Always. No Speaker is perfect. You might not always get it right, but the Speaker's ruling is always to be respected. And in all the years that I've been here, when I sat as the Speaker, I had a lot of disagreements with me. But never has this Parliament on either side ever gone into what I have seen. And I make bold to say that this is a new breed of parliamentarians, because never before have we had this type of behavior. I have been the Speaker. I have been opposed. We have had differences, but nobody has behaved in the way members of this new Parliament has behaved to any Speaker. And I'm going to say very frankly, it brings back to my mind the comment that was made originally before the Speaker was chosen. A member of the People's National Party had put out a notice. They did not want the present Speaker or myself to be the Speaker. I'm not the Speaker, but the Speaker is the Speaker that has been chosen. She is the Speaker. She is the Prime Minister's wife. Hold on. And I congratulate your member who spoke this evening. She spoke about behavior and the way we treat our women. I want to say it is not a good look for us to treat a female who is a Speaker. And I'm going to go further. I'm going to make very bold, because many people have said things and many people have gone wrong. Many people have gone right. But you know, the older members of Parliament, I look and I see the present leader of opposition business, who was also the leader of opposition business when I was a Speaker. And you just watch his profile. Never before have we had the type of behavior. And I'm calling it as I see it. The member, hold on, the member on that side from South St. James, I am saying particularly to her, I have never seen anybody behave to any Speaker the way she has done. And hold on, I want to say that the member, I'm not to call names, that spoke just before me. No, I'm not calling your name, but I'm saying to you, although you have had difficulties, and although you have said things, and although I have never heard you behave the way that the member from South St. James as a female has brought into this Parliament. I'm calling her out because she's young, she's new, she's female, and we have a female Speaker. And if you do anything with the revision, it doesn't matter what you do about the standing orders. The standing orders, if you revise it 1,000,000 times over, the Speaker's ruling must always be respected. And that is why the member who spoke before me came into this Parliament and made an apology for certain incidents. You have never done it, and your behavior has brought a new high to this thing. I am speaking on my feet, and I'm saying to you now, maybe many people will not say it openly. I stand this afternoon because I feel strongly about it. And I feel that the Speaker, in her position as the Prime Minister's wife and as a female, yes, I say it as it is because that's part of the objection. But let me tell you something. Never before has anybody been as disrespectful. And I could go on. And nobody, no other member that is old has behaved the way you have behaved. I say to you, no other member of the opposition, and you should not speak to me across the aisle. I'm addressing the Parliament. And I am saying to you, I am not inciting anybody. I don't care if you don't like it, because I don't like the attack. I do not like the attack. It is obvious. Remember, I do not like and I do not think it is right. And I say it with absolutely no malice. I say it this afternoon because I heard your own member speak about gender. And let me tell you, there are so many females that have joined this parliament that are excellent, oppose, and do not behave that way. It is a new trend, for God's sake. Let us stop it. And while we review the standing orders, just let us remember that if you review it 1,000,000 times over, the Speaker's views and ruling must always be respected. And I really am...
Member, thank you.
The voice there, a spirited delivery there from Marissa Dalrymple-Filbert. She's a former Speaker of the House of Representatives, and she's a current Member of Parliament. Dr. Nadine Spence, is Marissa Dalrymple-Filbert on point?
She is on point. She raised some critical issues. She spoke about generational change. She spoke about gender. She brought the personal into it, which is, I think, defining the politics of the parliament. The Prime Minister in his capacity as Prime Minister, but also Juliette Holness in her capacity as Member of Parliament and the person selected by her colleagues to serve as Speaker of the House, and the disrespect that is being meted out to the Speaker and the importance of these things called the standing orders, and whether or not the problem that is now being experienced in respect of the order to be maintained in Parliament is a result of the standing orders being in need of revision, or is it a result of disrespect being meted out to the Speaker? The Speaker is critical to the process of parliamentary order. And if the members of the House do not think that it is necessary for them to respect the Speaker, then the issue is not so much with the standing order as it is with the members themselves who have decided that the Speaker is not worthy of their respect. So I think she's raised some very critical points. I am particularly interested in the point she raised about a younger woman entering Parliament and her treatment of the other women in Parliament, and whether or not she sees that as an indictment on her own stewardship. Yeah, I mean, those are very, very important. It's very nuanced, it's very intersectional. She's raised a lot of issues that we could take apart and chew on, you know? So I think her intervention was spot on.
We have about 30 seconds for your opening remarks, Dr. Barrett. What is Marissa
doing that? Not quite yet, Dr. Barrett.
Soon, we're getting there. We're getting there.
I appreciate the compliment.
We're getting there. Is Marissa Dalrymple-Filbert on point? Is she hitting the right notes in Parliament?
Yes, she certainly is. She certainly is on point. The decorum, the lack of respect, the disgusting chatter, banter, disruption, it is absolutely unacceptable, quite frankly. But it doesn't mean that there ought not as well to be an exploration and an examination of the conduct of the Speaker. I don't think that there are any purely innocent parties in this whole affair. I think that a concern has to do with, for example, how the Speaker speaks to parliamentary.
I want you to hold a point right there for me, Jeremy Barrett. Hold that point right there about the Speaker and her interaction with the members as well, because we are up on our break. Let's take the break right here, and when we come back, we'll hear more from Jeremy Barrett and Dr. Nadine Spence on parliamentary conduct. Soon come.
Make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
The greatest show on earth is here, and Fan Central goes into extra time for 39 days right throughout FIFA's Showpiece tournament. With a Pepsi in hand, of course. Catch the playbook with a tactical breakdown from our expert coaches. Come sit in our fan corner where you have your say on the day's action. Fame or shame, who were the best or worst players of the day? And have a laugh as we share some of the best reactions on social media. After the final whistle, it's extra time. Fan Central Extra Time. 8 p.m. daily with 10 p.m. shows on select days where there are 8 p.m. match kickoffs.
Fan Central Extra Time is brought to you by the Pepsi Football Nation, where fans make the rules. Football, better with Pepsi.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Welcome back. This is Lead Story. I'm Tyrone Reed. Is the procedure parliamentary? That's what we're discussing tonight. Parliamentary conduct, again at the epicenter of discussions. We have with us political commentators, Dr. Nadine Spence and Jermaine Barrett. Jermaine Barrett, I jumped into your opening remarks, and I'd love for you to complete your opening remarks. You're at the point of saying it's not just how the opposition members are reacting to the speaker. You're also saying there's an issue with how the speaker addresses certain members of Parliament. Is that so?
Absolutely. So I think, for example, when the speaker makes comments as, telling members of the opposition that you need to read Hansard, not Hansard, the rules, and that you're not listening, you don't listen, and speaks to them in a very condescending, belittling way, that may be right at times. In other words, she might actually be spot on, but it doesn't all go well for the kind of harmonious coexistence of herself and them in the Parliament. And so it provokes them to react in these kinds of ways. I'm not saying that it's justifiable, but it does help to understand what exactly is informing these kinds of reactions. But overall, I think it is absolutely unacceptable. I was disgusting to the point of I wanted to puke when I listened to the sitting of my Parliament yesterday, thinking about, for example, parliaments in South Africa and elsewhere, where you see literally parliamentarians breaking out in physical fights. I was expecting at any point in time that would manifest in the hallowed halls of our Parliament. Absolutely unacceptable.
I've seen the likes of former Speaker of the House of Commons in the UK, John Bercow. He's quite strident, Dr. Nadine Spence. Sometimes the Speaker has to be strident.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you track back to when the Speaker took the bench, and if you look at how she has been regarded and treated, and the things that have been said, and the disrespect that has been meted out to her, I think this term she's come back with a kind of resoluteness that we didn't see last term, and that she has come back this time very much located in the what do you call it?
The standing orders?
The standing orders. Like she is making sure that the parliamentarians know that I am sticking to the rules, and that you yourselves must apprise yourself of the rules, because when I make a judgment, you are accusing me of being biased, but I am only following the rules. I think that is what I hear time and time again, the rules.
Yes.
It seems we have a little difficulty with the connection there with Dr. Spence. We're going to sort that out for our viewers. But Jeremy Barrett, I heard you coming in on that point. I've heard folks say the Speaker is actually in the standing order. She's doing what it says.
Yes, absolutely. Tyrone, my grandmother used to tell me that you could be approaching a stoplight to the green, and if you just press your gas, you're dead wrong. In other words, you could be right in terms of the, sticking by the rules, but you also have to appreciate that you're dealing with human beings, and in this context, human beings who from the outset had angst against you, were opposed in an unprecedented fashion to your very election to the high office of Speaker of the House. So that has to be taken into context as well. And so my simple submission is, classifications and characterizations of people as not reading and sort of speaking in a very derisive kind of manner to them does not help. It's not going to augur them to become humble and, sort of supplicant to her rulings. And so that also has to be taken into context.
But Jeremy Bright, if I may, sorry, go ahead.
Yes. I'm not saying to be strident is not the same as being disrespectful.
Do you get disrespect from the speaker? Do you see that?
I think I get a sort of an abrasiveness that borders on disrespect, and certainly it's being perceived as being disrespectful. And I think what needs to happen now, quite frankly, is for the entire parliament, including especially those who are new to the parliament, to be acquainted in a sort of a workshop setting with the rules of the standing orders. But that said, that may help to an extent, but it doesn't solve the issue, because the issue fundamentally is a breakdown of respect and regard for the parliamentarians.
When I wanted to come in earlier, Jeremy Barrett, it's on the point that you raised, an earlier point, because the writing seemingly was on the wall from the very day before the Speaker resumed her role as Speaker in this latest parliamentary term. The opposition broke with tradition and objected. So this is a malady of the opposition's own making?
Yes, but I mean, last time when we had this furore, the Prime Minister sat in his seat. I don't know if he stood, but he certainly exclaimed repeatedly from his side of the House, shouting at Dr. Dayton Campbell, telling him that he's a bully. He's a bully. Now, maybe Dr. Dayton Campbell is a bully, but it is not appropriate conduct. It's not parliamentary conduct for you to be shouting from your side of the House at another parliamentarian.
From the sedentary position.
The perception of the bias, Harold, is that the Speaker did not rein him in. She was very, very on point in terms of cutting off, stopping people, for example, the Member of Parliament from Southern St. James and so forth. But when the Prime Minister did his little bit of theatrics, she was nowhere to be heard. And so those kinds of subtlety, now she's human and she's not going to catch everything, but again, because she has now been so firm and insistent on following the rules, every single time she does not adhere to the rules, she's going to be perceived as being biased. So all of that has also to be taken into context.
Ladies, gentlemen, let's address the elephant in the room. And it's a philosophical issue that has been debated quite a bit. The fact that the Speaker is the wife of the Prime Minister, should that disqualify her from being the Speaker of the House of Representatives? I'll begin with you, Dr. Nadine Spence. Is that a conflict of interest that should have ruled her out of ascending to the Speaker's chair? I'm
thinking it through. I've thought it through. And I think to myself, I know, I listened to Michelle Obama talk about her time in the supporting her husband in the presidency, and she said clearly, I had and have no ambition to be president or to participate in elected office. And so even though people would have encouraged her and wanted her to be a part of that, she said no. I'm thinking now of Julia Tones, who clearly has her own political ambitions and could ascend to any office in the country. And we're saying to her, because you are married to the Prime Minister, it means that you cannot do certain things. I think our democracy allows for it. It's not illegal. It's not untoward. It's not a conflict of interest that would remove you from office. It's a reality that we face in our parliament, and we have to sit down and think about whether or not she's competent or whether or not this is happening for other reasons, you know. Is it
And Dr. Spence, should we, if we were to be guided by this notion that because she's the wife of the Prime Minister, she ought not to be able to be upwardly mobile in terms of her political career, wouldn't that be setting women back hundreds of years?
That's my point. I'm trying to say it by saying, are you saying that because she became somebody's wife, she should stifle her ambitions? I have a fundamental problem with that. I have a fundamental problem with that. And I think that we should.
No, I agree. And a lot of the putrid and the bile is being poured on her because I think, and I'll be daring enough to say, because she's a woman, the wife of the Prime Minister. But I think that ought not to be something that excludes her. I think the rules does not exclude her. I think the opposition is well within their rights to oppose and to stand in opposition to her ascendancy to the seat of the Speaker of the Parliament. But the point at which she is duly elected into that position, people should just treat her as though she is, respect her office, quite frankly, and not allow the proceedings of the Parliament to devolve into such sort of.
I was going to say, Jermaine, at the point that she becomes the Speaker, she's the Speaker.
Yes.
She's in an office that we have to commit to respect.
Absolutely.
And so the other behaviors that people are imposing on the office are wrong.
Yeah.
Because she is the Speaker of the House.
There appears to be a campaign to have the Speaker removed on the part of the opposition. Is that unbecoming, Dr. Spence?
It is, because it's not the opposition that chooses the Speaker. The Speaker is chosen from the side of the House that will form government.
Yes.
And so if the side of the House that is forming government, the majority side in Parliament, chooses the Speaker the way it is laid out, then the opposition has no right to intervene in that process. Because who is to say what will happen when the opposition takes power in the future? Would they want there to be this kind of contested perspective on whoever they choose?
I only have under a minute to wrap this segment. I have under a minute to wrap this segment, but I have to ask both of you this. Do you think this is the worst batch of new parliamentarians? People have been saying they've never seen it like this before. Let's begin with you, Jeremy Barr. Do you think this is the worst batch of new parliamentarians?
Absolutely, and to add to that as well, I think there's a lot of invocation of a lot of principles that are absolutely misplaced. For example, when I hear Thoreau's principle about fighting militantly against oppression and so forth, that is absolutely absurd and misplaced. When I hear, for example, the disdain towards, for example, the mace in the Parliament and the symbolisms that are from our British heritage being trampled upon, it is absolutely out of order. Change the system. You are a parliamentarian, you can contribute, you can raise a bill or a motion to have those things change. Don't disregard the parliament because you're, quite frankly, you're trampling upon the dignity of the people of Jamaica. It is our parliament. Treat it with respect.
Dr. Spence, we give you the final word. Worst batch?
Worst batch, absolutely the worst. They have no idea what the rules are. They didn't know that there were rules that guided the conduct of parliamentarians, and the older ones on the opposition side, but the older ones overall. I'm so happy for Mrs. Melissa. Finally, as a person with experience and who understands the dignity that is supposed to be imposed in the parliament, finally spoke up. But these are the absolute worst. They're showing their ignorance. It's bad.
We have to leave it there. Thanks to Dr. Nadine Spence, and as I always call him, Dr. Jeremy Barrett, and he knows why. Thanks to both of you for the time and the thoughts. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate the conversation, Darren. Bye, Dr. Spence. All the best.
Indeed. This is Lead Story. We take a break right here and come back with more.
To develop state-of-the-art security solutions like our new Total Connect smart home automation system that gives you 24/7 access to control your appliances, lights, cameras, and doors using your smartphone, tablet, or PC. As the most trusted electronic security company in Jamaica, Hawkeye has the fastest response times to get to you when you need us most. Trust Hawkeye's Total Connect. Hawkeye, securing what matters most.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Hi, I am Candy Pang.
What a guan?
What a guan?
That a guan pa.
What a guan? What a guan?
What a Guan! Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
That's a guan pa. What a guan?
Welcome back to our final segment this evening. The Financial Services Commission, the body responsible for regulating Jamaica's non-bank financial sector, is now at the epicenter of a growing political and policy debate. At issue is a $500 million transfer from the FSC's reserves to the government. The government has defended the move. Finance Minister Favour Williams has stated that the transfer followed an assessment of the FSC's financial position and was made only after it was determined that the Commission's operations and long-term viability would not be compromised. She further maintains that it is not unusual for self-financing public bodies with excess reserves to be asked to distribute surplus funds to support government revenue requirements. But the opposition is questioning both the timing and impact of the decision. Opposition spokesman on finance and the public service, Julian Robinson, argues that the transfer is difficult to reconcile with the FSC's current efforts to increase regulatory fees on insurance companies and other entities it regulates. The debate now goes beyond the dollar figure. It touches on questions of financial governance, regulatory independence, transparency, and public confidence. Was the FSC's financial position strong enough to support the transfer? Did the drawdown contribute to the Commission's current financial pressures? And is it fair to ask the industries being regulated to pay more after such a substantial withdrawal? Joining me now to discuss this is the opposition spokesman on finance and the public service, Julian Robinson. Top of the evening to you, Julian Robinson. Welcome
good
to
evening
Lead
to
Story
you,
again.
and good evening to your viewers and your listeners.
Indeed. What's the latest on this issue, Julian Robinson? It's an issue that we have been discussing for some time. What's the latest? And I see the opposition is still maintaining that this was a poor decision on the part of the government.
It is a poor decision. If you go back to that committee meeting and you listen to what the FSC said itself, it said that the withdrawal of $500 million imperiled its financial position. It's not my words. I didn't make that up. They said that. And now they have moved to solidify their position by increasing their fees. In one case, and this is a real example, and a CEO of a local company told me this, they're moving from a flat fee of $500,000 a year to paying the FSC close to $120 million per year, because the nature of the charges have changed, where it is now a percentage of total assets. Now, any company that is faced with such a significant increase is not going to absorb that. They're going to pass it on. So my concern is for people who have life insurance policies, people who must insure their homes or insure their cars. Insuring your car is mandatory if you're going to have a license, and insuring your home, certainly if you have a mortgage, you must do so. Now, those persons are going to face steep increases in their premiums. I mean, you already have increases in premiums as a result of two hurricanes in the last 3 years. But this particular decision by the government is going to push insurance premiums up higher. Now, Jamaica has an issue already where too few people insure their homes. In fact, coming out of the hurricane, I believe the figure, particularly for Western Jamaica, for the homes affected by the hurricane, I think it was only 5% of those homes were insured. So now, when you think about this carefully, when homes are not insured, who bears the burden of trying to help those persons to recover? Yes, they may have friends, they may have families, but the government has to end up picking up the slack. And so the point is having more people insured, having home and car insurance being more affordable, reduces a risk and a cost that the government has to bear ultimately. So a decision that the government has made to withdraw this 500 million has led to increased fees, which in my view will lead to increased costs for the end user, which are owners of life insurance, health, life insurance, home insurance, and car insurance policies.
That number sounds astronomical, Julian Robinson. From 500,000 to 120 million is the number you're giving
one
back?
Case. Yes,
and which sector is this business from, of course, without naming them?
Yes, in one particular case, based on the nature of what the company does, and it is both insurance and management of pension funds, yes.
Insurance and management of pension funds.
Yeah.
So the impact then, Julian Robinson, which you have been, and the opposition, you've been trying to draw attention to this, ultimately Jamaicans, taxpayers are going to be asked to pay more.
Yeah, individuals, because no company, every company has profit margins, they have gross and net profit margins, they will probably try and absorb some of it. But given the scale of the increases that are going to take place in a very short period of time, they can't absorb it. So what they're going to do, they're going to pass it on. And that means that premiums will go up. And I'm just simply saying, in an environment where people are already paying more for gas, paying more for food, there's significant inflation as a result of what is happening with the Iran war, they are now going to be faced with this burden. And some people may just decide it is just too expensive to insure their homes. There are people who have made those decisions that they don't insure their homes again because the cost of insuring your home is too much. Now, you are required by law to insure your car, but we know there are many examples where people get into accidents and you find out that the person that hit you don't have insurance. So this is pushing the cost of insurance more outside the reach of most Jamaicans.
Julian Robinson, for those who are listening and watching at home or wherever they're watching, and they're listening to you making this argument, and they might say, but the opposition spokesman isn't factoring in the fact that there wasn't an increase in these fees for years. The centre couldn't hold. There had to be an increase. How do you respond to that?
But that's not true. Some of the fees are based on a percentage of assets. So, for example, as companies grow, the FSC will collect more money. So it's, in a sense, a graduated fee. So it's a percentage, but it increases as the size of the companies and their asset base grows. But even if you're going to make these adjustments, to make such a large adjustment triggered by the fact that the government took $500 million out of the FSC has had this impact on the FSC. The FSC, contrary to what the government said, and the FSC itself said that, their financial position is not strong, which is why they have to increase the fees. So how can the government be withdrawing money, 500 million on the one hand, putting the FSC in a bad financial position, then the FSC has to increase costs, and now turning around and saying, well, you always have to increase costs? No. The FSC was forced into this position by the government taking out the 500 million.
Has the proverbial horse already bolted, Julian Robinson? Are you calling on the government to return this 500 million?
I believe it should be returned. I believe there should be consultation with the industry. If there are going to be fee increases, it should be gradual and phased in a way that it does not have such a negative impact on policyholders at one go, particularly within a climate where you want more people to be insured, particularly home insurance, and also just coming out of so many other pressures that people are facing. I mean, you know, the food price increases every week, the gas price increases every week. This is pushing insurance out of the hands of most Jamaicans.
Is that asking too much, Julian Robinson, for the government to reverse this decision?
I don't think it is, because what you want, you see, just think about it. You know, when you look at the impact of the hurricane and the amount of families who were devastated, how many of those families had insurance that they could make a claim, have some restitution by an insurance company? As I said, the figure I heard is 5%. The point I'm making is it is in the national interest for more people to insure their homes, so that the burden when you have a hurricane doesn't fall almost entirely on the government to respond to these disasters.
That was the opposition spokesman on finance and the public service, Julian Robinson. Mr. Robinson, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Indeed. And that's all we have time for in today's edition of Lead Story. I'm Tyron Reid, and on behalf of the entire CVM production team, have a fantastic evening. CVM News comes up at the top of the hour.